Good morning, this is Tool Mesa on the way to Cedar Bench over there. And I'm going to break here to talk an old anime.
Macross, do you remember love?
Superdimensional Fortress Macross, Do You Remember Love, is the 1984 anime theatrical reversioning of the spacefaring science fiction TV series of 2 years before. The SDF Macross is a huge human city inside an abandoned alien spaceship, slowly making its way back to Earth from the outer solar system. Hikaru is a junior pilot of the humans' new convertible fighter plane. It's a fighter jet. It's a robot. No, it's both a fighter jet and a robot. When a squadron of aliens attack the Macross, one of them penetrates inside the human habitat. Misa Hayase, a by-the-book tactical control officer on the Macross's bridge, orders the fighter squadrons outside to leave the intruders to the interior defenses. But Hikaru disobeys and follows them inside anyway. As a result, he rescues Min-mei, a pretty pop idol singer. But after the firefight, Hikaru and Min-mei find themselves trapped together behind a bulkhead. They spend some quality time together, alone together, getting to know each other. And when they're finally rescued, the gossip magazines are all at Twitter over the pop star's new pilot boyfriend. So what's the deal with these aliens anyway? Well, they look a lot like giant-sized people, except they're green. There are two different fleets, with a long war going on between them. Strangely, the division is strictly between male and female. They can't even imagine the two genders coexisting with one another. So when they learn that the humans have both males and females living and working together, it seems impossibly disgusting. Yak de culture, as the aliens would say. That isn't the only part of human culture that amazes and intrigues these aliens. It seems they're sadly lacking in the arts. Music really brings them up short. They have an adverse reaction to singing that's even worse than the one I have to listening to the crap you kids are listening to these days. I bet they'd like Beethoven, though. All this leads to the aliens believing that humanity is a related species of their own, a branch perhaps closer to their original common proto-culture. Luckily, humanity has just the pop idol singer to dazzle these aliens, and she just happens to be dating a heroic military pilot. In the course of the story, pilot Hikaru and bridge officer Miso will end up marooned alone together on what's left of Earth after the aliens have finished bombarding it. Hikaru keeps getting stranded on deserted islands with pretty women. At first, Hikaru and Misa have a rather frosty relationship, especially since he disobeyed her orders earlier. She's all duty and regulation, and he's more into winging it. But after some quality time as castaways together, they grudgingly learn to respect each other, and even more. By the time everyone is back aboard the Macross, there's now a romantic triangle among Hikaru, Min-mei, and Misa. The movie was directed by Shoji Kawamori, who is the mechanical designer for the Macross TV show. He also reimagines the movie's alternate storyline that's different from the TV show. Despite Kawamori's reputation as a mechanical designer, when he writes and directs, he often does a great job at developing these kinds of interpersonal relationships. For example, in his later work directing Escaflowne and Arjuna. Okay, not so much with Aquarian. In the Macross movie, he does a nice job without a lot of direct dialogue. For example, when Hikaru and Min-mei have a reunion with Misa at a concert, there's a very public discovery of how relationships have changed among them since they last met, and it's pretty much dialogue-free. Hikaru is such a thoughtless pig. Well, they'll always have Paris. No, actually, Paris has been destroyed along with the rest of the planet. All that's left of the human race are the thousands of refugees aboard the Macross. I'm no expert on being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. The relationship between Hikaru and Minmay is based on Dazzle. She's a rock star, and he's a heroic pilot who rescued her from the aliens. Hikaru and Misa have a more intellectual relationship based on mutual respect for each other's talents. We see the contrast when Hikaru goes out on the town, first with Minmay, and then later with Misa. At the start of the movie, Hikaru and Misa are at odds, bickering over orders and chain of command. But later we'll see that, like the aliens have learned, man and woman can work together. The movie uses some quick graphic overlays to show us how well synchronized they've become in the final battle. SDF Macross was the third such durable anime franchise created in the span of just a couple of years, following the star-hopping space opera of space pirate Captain Harlock and the closer-to-home story of humans fighting each other around Earth in Mobile Suit Gundam. The TV show also spawned two other super-dimensional series titles, Mospeda and Orgus, neither of which were as long-lived. Macross is also notable to English-speaking fans as the source material for the Americanized Robotech TV version of the show, which spawned an early version of American anime fans. Believe it or not, TV shows with plot lines that continued through the episodes and actually came to a conclusion just weren't done on old-fashioned American TV. The theatrical movie was released 2 years after the TV series ended. This wasn't a compilation movie, though recutting a TV show into a movie version was a popular, low-cost way to milk a popular franchise at the time. It wasn't a sequel either. Instead, it was a new version that took the characters and situations from the TV show and reworked them into a similar yet different story. The movie borrows the basic premise from the TV show without repeating it. It sort of assumes the viewer will just sort of catch on to which pieces of the TV show's premise it's taken as read. How do the humans get out into space on the Macross anyway? In the TV show, an alien spaceship crashes to Earth. Men study the ship to exploit its technology and repair it, creating a small city around the crash site. A decade later, when other alien spaceships appear near Earth, the Macross automatically on its own folds space to jump to the edge of the solar system, taking along not just its current human occupants, but also the small city that had grown up around it. The SDF Macross thus becomes a refugee city floating through space, heading back to what's left of Earth after the invasion. At this point, the two stories go their separate ways. The Japanese voice cast from the TV show reprised their role for the movie too. Hikaru's old buddy and squad commander, Roy, is still a big part of the story. There are also some brief nods to some of the other characters from the TV show without much explanation. Another pilot shoots down a green-haired alien female, who he then calls beautiful. Sometime later, we see him teamed up with that same alien woman, except now she's converted herself to human side and joined the Macross team. I'm pretty sure she never even gets named in the movie. It's just a quick guest appearance by Milia and Max from the TV show. Its fans can easily fill in the blanks, and for anyone not familiar with the series, well, it didn't last long, so you weren't all that confused. That's just one example of where the movie's plot both differs from the TV series and yet borrows heavily from the TV background whenever it pleases. That keeps the new main story focused and moving forward. In 1984, Do You Remember Love was made with state-of-the-art animation. The artwork still looks good today, but some of the animation techniques are dated and its budget occasionally shows its age. The huge space battles just aren't as impressive as they once were. Which is not to say that they're bad, they're just not dazzling to modern CGI-enhanced audiences anymore. You still gotta love those old-school missile storms, though. As you might expect from a movie involving a singing star, not to mention one in which the songs are actually plot elements, music plays a huge role in this movie. Many of the songs were later collected in a video called Macross Flashback 2012, a date which once seemed incredibly futuristic, I'm sure. In 2 more years, 2012 really will be a flashback. Flashback borrowed animation from the movie, plus some new animation, to create an animated Minmay concert video. Space battles fought the vocals, and love songs at that may not seem as dramatic as heroic orchestral scores, but this one worked for me. You might not be entirely willing to buy into the show's premise that a song can be used as a weapon against aliens. Yeah, it's corny, and they do their best to make it plausible. The movie had 2 English versions of sort. The producers commissioned an English dub for international sales, retitled Super Space Fortress Macross. It used a British and Australian voice cast, except it retains Minmei's original songs in Japanese, leaving her singing an octave higher than she speaks. It also has Japanese subtitles. Here's how Hikaru meets Misa in English.
But who's gonna deal with the enemy?
Leave them to the Defense Force Network.
I'll deal with them. I'm not listening to a woman. Go!
Wait! You chauvinist! You disobey my orders?
Actually, that dub was why I decided to talk about that movie now. I was told to throw out a lot of old boxes of alleged junk, and I found the old import PAL VHS release of it. It was never released in the US, since the TV series was licensed by Harmony Gold for their Robotech series. A few minutes of listening to that tape convinced me to get out my old Japanese Laserdisc instead. I'm also supposed to get rid of a lot of my Laserdiscs. Sadly, Do You Remember Love's sole American release was a hack job re-edit titled Clash of the Bionoids that's best forgotten. Its original version has never had an American release. Apparently, too many people have claims on the copyright or something. Strangely, I find this movie and its characters still entertaining today. I enjoy its ending, however schmaltzy and corny, in much the same way that I still enjoy Gunbuster. I give Do You Remember Love 4.5 stars as a milestone in anime. But stick with the Japanese version.
Thanks for watching.